mā te whānau ka ora ai. So with all the voices of whānau, so with whānau, literally with whānau there is life, and so that sort of talks about the whānau at the centre of sports clubs, of sport, of Māori Indigenous sports and Indigenous games, and how that can bring about a thriving community. So that was one sort of whakataukī, I suppose, that sort of came to mind initially when coming about, when doing this kaupapa, was mā te whānau ka ora ai. So with the family, it leads to a thriving community. But another thing that sort of came to mind as well was like the metaphor around waka as well, that sort of resonates with a few people, and with pedals. So with it's called nā tō hoi, nā tōku hoi ka tere ai te waka. So literally with my pedal, with your pedal, our waka can travel faster. So the idea of collaboration, I suppose that was sort of the aspirations for the kaupapa, is that our whānau can see that we're on board the waka too, and we're trying to do this together. And I suppose that's the next part, is like that they enjoyed seeing the actual written report and hearing what's come out of it. I suppose what they're wanting to see next is, okay, we've given you a little bit of us. What will come back to us in return? And I suppose that's a challenge for us. What are the opportunities we can create for them to influence the direction of our waka, for want of a better word, and I suppose go on to the new horizons. We all sort of, I suppose that the waka is a pretty good sort of narrative to go along, because you're going into a new land, a new motu that is it's a bit it's unknown, I suppose. It's a new horizon, so for us to get there, to see what the new future looks like, it's going to take us all. So that might be another one too. So there's two that sort of come to mind. How the kaupapa sort of started was wanting to gather some insights and some voices of whānau who are engaged in sports, physical activities within the Canterbury region, and those who are engaged in Māori sports clubs. And we wanted to hear from them their experiences and gather some learnings that we could use to support them along their aspirations, but also things that other modern sports could utilise within their own sort of understandings or awareness, or journey along being a more whānau focused sports club or sport. And that was sort of at the heart of where the kaupapa sort of started for us, wanting to hear those narratives, wanting to hear those stories, wanting to hear those experiences, and what we could learn for, I suppose, our sector, and how we could support those whānau who are heavily engaged or involved in sports, Māori physical activities, and within their sports clubs. So that's sort of how the initiative started. For me, it is to shed a little bit of light on the heavy involvement of Māori individuals and Māori communities within sport, and what they contribute to modern sports here within Aotearoa, and their involvement with things like Indigenous Māori games and Māori and physical activities. So we wanted to shed a light on that and show the mahi they're doing within the community, and I suppose wanted to show that we see them, we recognise all their work and their contributions, and produce something that could lead to some action for them, and looking at how we could apply this whānau approach to our sector within physical activity and sport, but also how it could contribute to other aspects within our society. It could be education, it could be in governance and leadership. I suppose that's why the kaupapa is important, and and our sort of role was to hear that and to ensure that their voices are heard within other spaces within the sport area and physical activity, and potentially what it could lead to. I suppose trying to reshape that future for them, have them involved in some of those decisions, and I suppose investigate for ourselves what that might look like. What does it look like working in collaboration with Whānau? And what are the actions that we need to take, or the things that we need to consider to ensure that that process is shaped in a way that benefits not only like a 5 or 10 year plan, but I suppose a 100-year plan. What does it look like? What does our ecosystem within sport and physical activity need to look like for us to be thriving and for our area to be nice and vibrant, not only for Māori but for all people within Aotearoa. I suppose in terms of the Māori community and the people that we engaged with and who participated in our kaupapa project, often feel that that there are a few barriers to engagement, to accessibility, to sports and physical activity, and we wanted to show that there is a pathway for them. I suppose that the biggest barrier is not only for Māori but for all is sort of that financial barrier to participation, and for us to sort of recognise that not only the individual but the whānau involved as well. And that's the sort of the key sort of thing in terms of what makes this kaupapa a little bit different and why this engagement is important. It is a priority group that is underserved for the most part within this area. We have high representation, but there are still some gaps there in terms of how we could support whānau within this area there. And I suppose that this is why, one of the reasons why that this kaupapa is important for us. They're contributing a bit to modern sports and the revitalisation of Māori Indigenous games, and this could be one way that we could help navigate the whole sector together going forward. So currently we've gathered in our insights, and we're at a stage to start sharing the kaupapa with the whānau and different organisations. I think that they appreciated that their voices have been put into something tangible. So that's having the report. I suppose that the next step for us is, I suppose that's the big question for us is, well, what are the next steps? And some of the things that we're looking at is, how do we create more opportunities for our whānau to have a say or influence in the way our sector is going? What are the decisions that they could be contributing as well? And what does that preferred future sort of look like? I suppose that those are the next steps for us, and some of the outcomes that we're wanting to achieve at the completion of this kaupapa. It's only phase one in terms of the whānau contributions to this, and looking at some other opportunities in terms of developing potential development of an evaluation tool designed or co-designed with whānau, and potential criteria for other organisations or other sports clubs or other sports trusts that they can utilise to see if they're engaging in, or how they're engaging with whānau, and some of the things they need to be considering when they're moving into this space. Well, yeah, I'd probably be a very rich man if I could figure that out. There's not just one thing, it's like a bunch of processes. Some of the things what I could share is what the whānau sort of shared in terms of what needs to be done in terms of supporting them. And they talked heavily around, some sort of financial support, and what that looked like to them is, how do they navigate the spaces to engage in funding to support their initiatives and their aspirations? What are the people they need to talk to? How do you play that game to achieve greater outcomes for them? That seems to be one of the greatest barriers for all our whānau engagement. It's either accessibility to equipment, to transport. How do we alleviate some of those barriers for them? And part of that is, how like the education part for not only for the sector but also for our whānau. How do you navigate these sort of spaces here? And for our sector, how do you create or integrate te ao Māori practices and principles, things that they talked about in their whānau, into applied action for the sector? And they did share things around education is important, it's a key thing. And it needs to be something that we need to be able to acknowledge, create meaningful change, and then see what it can, and reflect on it too, evaluate sort of how we're going. So those basic principles there. But those are some of the things that the whānau talked about of what they wanted to see. So that how to navigate the finances in terms of getting financial support for them, but also like the education piece for them and for the sector. Incorporating, Māori principles, values into your practice, and being able to really live it, I suppose. And I suppose that's sort of the next phase. What does that look like, and how could we go about doing that? And that would be, and that's different for every group, for every organisation, every sports club. But it's a challenge that we all need to go through. And I suppose like what the whānau did say is that they are willing to support that too, and collaborate on those sort of things, and that's I suppose where we want to get to in general, working together, collaborating with each other, and actually trying to, with want of a better word, decentralise some of that decision making, so it's community and partner. So what does real partnership look like? And they sort of discussed some of those things too, of doing things side by side, and it's a massive sort of challenge for the sector and for all of us, but it's again it's going to be a journey, whatever that may look like. Being reflective, like the reflective practice is quite challenging at times, because you have to look at yourself and question yourself and develop greater self-awareness, which if you're not ready for it, you don't like doing. And that's sort of part of what we've done with our whānau in terms of navigating that space there. It is cliche, but it always starts with self. And if you are willing to make that change, acknowledging all those challenges that we face from the past and the present, if we're able to get to that space first and foremost, we sort of free ourselves up, our minds and our body, soul, all that, to a different perspective, which is where we need to be in terms of that reflective practice. It's no good just asking the question and just answering it. We need to sort of shift the thinking, and one of those things is sort of acknowledging all the challenges, the good, the bad, the things that have contributed to where we are currently, and then wanting to make a meaningful change. And that's easier said than done, but that's sort of part of the process. And you have to be navigated through that as well, but that's some of the processes that we've taken on board with some of the whānau that we've worked with, and it's probably something that the environment I tried to create within the Sport Canterbury presentation of the kaupapa, of creating a bit of awareness for the whānau there, the Sport Canterbury whānau, and trying to create willing participants. You can't be forced into those spaces there. You have to be willing to create transformative change down along the journey, and long-lasting change, I believe as well. So those are some of those key aspects in terms of trying to create a reflective practice, reviewing on what we've done and continuing on the work that has been positive, and maybe amending or changing some of the things along that way if it didn't quite work out. But that's sort of, I suppose, the basics in terms of what we've done for reflective practice. So some of those sports clubs, Māori sports clubs that we talked to, and they were sharing their stories and their aspirations for the future, are doing things really different from other clubs. You know, from not selling alcohol outside in the club, to actually really pushing the cultural narrative with their members who are Māori and non-Māori. That's what makes them a little bit different, that they're not only about those ones participating in the sport, but also their entire whānau, and what does that look like, bringing them all along the journey. And that's been some of the things that they were sharing. There were one sort of respondent sort of stands out in my mind, is that she shared that they make me feel more authentically, or they make us feel authentic. We can be who we need to be within this space here at the club and out in our community, and that was something that we really resonated and sort of captured what those Māori sports clubs are doing a little bit differently to other clubs, really leaning into their cultural narrative, really leaning into that and what that looks like socially from the whānau, so looking after the whānau well-being, but also socially, emotionally. They're coming at it at many different angles, and some of the initiatives and what they're doing now is, you know, the focus seems to be very bring the whānau together, utilising their culture, and then from that the byproduct is you get to participate in sport as well. So all these sort of things that are a little bit different. They're sort of treating down new territory, which has been challenging for them. And I suppose that like, how do we encourage more sports clubs like that? They are doing something very different. That's making not only it's making a positive change for the individuals participating in sport, but also their whānau, so that social and cultural return on what they're doing is actually really powerful. And what does that look like for some of our more modern sports clubs? What does that look like for clubs who want to start thinking about utilising these things, about thinking more about not only, yes, there's always going to be a pathway for high performance, but what does it look like for everybody who just enjoys playing sports? I think that was one of the cool things that came out of the project, and something that was, I suppose, really valuable for us to learn and to highlight in the project. Our next sort of step for us is to, like, we have started it, is sharing back with our whānau, with the different organisations that we've been a part of this is what's come out of the kaupapa. These are the insights that you shared, and this is what we saw as important from the kaupapa. From there, we're looking at, and again, this is probably a bit more long term, of working with different organisations of, this is something that's come, this is what the whānau have said is important to them in terms of sport, physical activity. What could this look like in your organisation? So that's one part. Another part is to also, with our whānau, when we go back to all of them and share with what they gave to us, on sort of developing a potential a criteria for a framework that sort of describes what working in a whānau-centric way within your sport or sports club looks like. And I'm trying to, again, that's sort of the next steps, working with different organisations of what this kaupapa means to them and what it looks like, and how the whānau can influence a potential criteria that other groups, other whānau sports clubs, sports could measure, or not measure, but see where they sit along that continuum of creating a whānau-centric environment for their community.